Gesiotto. Madison, a contentious exchange filled with fireworks. The president is saying about his initial statement, I didn't have all the facts. It seems he's talking about the identity of the driver who plowed into that crowd and killed a woman. But he did have the facts, didn't he, that there were white supremacists showing up?
I don't think that he was unaware that there were white supremacists there, but I think what he was saying is that he did not have all of the facts in terms of the timeline of what happened, who attacked who, how did this escalate to the point that we were at Saturday and the point that we ultimately got to past Saturday and into Monday when he made his follow-up statement. I think it's very important that he waited to speak definitively on Monday when he did have all the facts. Listen, there's no place for hate in my heart, in my home, or in my country. But at the same time, I do not want to speak out against, anything without having the facts. Of course, Trump has spoken out before against the KKK, against white nationalists. Yeah,
but the point is, what they're upset about is, he said many, many sides instead of naming names, right, Madison? Naming the KKK and the white supremacists. Look, let me back up. This is political strychnine for the president, white supremacists, yes. Right, Al? This is the problem. This is his third rail. And you know what? The American people, it seems that they're tired of this political identity politics on the left and on the right. They want jobs. The irony is it's about infrastructure and jobs. The president said jobs fixes race relations. Go ahead, Al.
Well, to some degree, but when President Clinton was in office and we had a roaring economy and 20 million new jobs, we had bad race relations. That's not the solution in full. And frankly, the president stepped on his message yet again today. But today went beyond that. I mean, I'm just going to say this. What he said today was despicable, equating both sides. Both sides did not use ISIS-like tactics to ram into a crowd and kill an innocent American. But wait a second, Al. I
have to push back on you on that because we have seen the video, Al. There were baseball bats brought. They were wearing black hoods. There was violence from the alt-left as well. That was the president's point, right?
I understand that,
We're
Liz.
showing it right now on camera. I mean, there's real violence from the alt-left here.
I understand that, Liz, and violence is inappropriate wherever it comes from, anarchists, the alt-right, the alt-left, but to equate protesters who bring violence to a rally with domestic terrorists, the KKK, white nationalists...
Listen, Al, come on. You're not really going to basically say it's okay, right? That the alt-left is okay to bring violence to a rally? Is that what you're saying?
Of course not. No. What I'm saying is that the president is trying to draw an equivalence between protesters on the left who occasionally are violent and white nationalist terrorists.
They're
really?
violent.
He's drawing an equivalency.
Let's Madison. I get your point. Madison, go ahead.
So you'd like to say that just because in the one instance where the woman was hit by the car and she passed away, unfortunately, which is absolutely terrible, someone could have hit someone in the wrong part of their head with that baseball bat, and they could have been dead too. The violence is unacceptable coming from any side.
All right, let's get the president. I want to get the soundbite on race relations from the president. Hang on. Let's get the president on race relations. Let's take the soundbite. Listen.
I think they've gotten better or the same. Look, they've been frayed for a long time. And you can ask President Obama about that because he'd make speeches about it. But I believe that the fact that I brought in, it will be soon, millions of jobs. You see where companies are moving back into our country. I think that's going to have a tremendous positive impact on race relations.
Okay, let's talk about jobs for a second here. Madison, the irony is he's talking about infrastructure. Why do I say irony? Okay, there's D.C. gridlock, right? There's media-induced gridlock because there's gotcha politics like to cover that. But there's serious gridlock in the United States. I mean, we have not had a new airport since 1995. That 90-year-old bridge that connects Canada to America, $200 billion in trade, the #1 trade venue, is crumbling. He's talking about infrastructure and jobs, Madison. Go ahead.
I've said it so many times before. I'll say it again. People in the United States of America are sick of people in Congress who do not work for them. They work for themselves. They work for their personal and political interests. And President Trump is making a very valid point here that we need to see change. Something that can take 5 years or 2 years should not take 20 years. It's ridiculous. Something that should cost $5 should not cost $50. The American people are sick of overpaying and receiving results too late or sometimes not at all.
Let's get back to the president firing back at the press. Roll tape.
If the press were not fake and if it was honest, the press would have said what I said was very nice. But unlike you and unlike the media, before I make a statement, I like to know the facts. That was a horrible, horrible day. Wait a minute. I'm not finished. I'm not finished, fake news. That was a horrible day. I watched those very closely, much more closely than you people watched it. And you have you had a group on one side that was bad, and you had a group on the other side that was also very violent.
Al, I want you to finish your thought about this. Go ahead.
Well, I like it when leaders match their private feelings with public courage. When the Merck CEO says enough is enough. When Senator Orrin Hatch, a Republican lifelong, says you have to call evil by its name. What this president is not doing is matching their public courage, and it's disappointing. You know,
we're going to get to that Manufacturing Council story in a moment. 4 of those members stepped down. A big union leader is he's staying on that Manufacturing Council. We're going to get to that in a moment. But President Trump, again, clearly condemning the attack and the violence on Saturday. Listen.
The driver of the car is a disgrace to himself, his family, and this country. And that is, you can call it terrorism, you can call it murder, you can call it whatever you want. I would just call it as the fastest one to come up with a good verdict. That's what I'd call it. Because there is a question. Is it murder? Is it terrorism? And then you get into legal semantics. The driver of the car is a murderer. And what he did was a horrible, horrible, inexcusable thing.
All right, Ted Cruz, Madison, is saying he's a domestic terrorist. We know that there's domestic terrorism going on, Madison. The president's point here is throw the book at him, right?
Absolutely. I mean, this poor young woman, her life was taken way too soon. It's unacceptable what happened again on Saturday. And, you know, we have to look to Section, I think, 802 of the USA Patriot Act. That expanded, you know, the definition of terrorism to include domestic terrorism. And that's exactly what they'll be looking at when they take into account what happened and how this life was lost.
You know, getting to that Manufacturing Council story, Al, you would raise that about the Merck CEO leaving. Here are the people who are staying. Look who's sticking. Richard Trumka. He's the head of the AFL-CIO. Jeff Immelt. We know that Michael Dell and Alex Gorski of Johnson & Johnson is staying on the panel. Isn't it better to be at the table and not on the menu? You want to sit there and fight for what you believe in, right, Al?
Well, obviously engaging with government is in the interest of companies and their shareholders and customers and the like. But obviously the Merck CEO, as he said, enough's enough. His moral compass dictated he wanted to leave, and that's his right to do so. I don't think his company is going to be harmed by that. But, you know, it's not just him. It's the president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. You know, the president today criticized the Merck CEO, saying that he had jobs overseas. Well, the head of the American Alliance for Manufacturing decided to leave, too. So there is a lot of discontent. I don't think the president did himself any favors today, by the way.
But you know what? What needs to be done is fixing economic policy in the United States, and that's why both sides of the political aisle, actually 8 million